Hey everybody, welcome back to Trading a Smaller Account. My name is Mike Fairbourn, sitting in for Barb Armstrong, and it is great to be with you all. Folks, I'm seeing you in the chat as well. Good to have you on board. Joining the chat by a good friend and colleague of mine, Cameron May. You can follow us both on X, Cameron May CS, Mike Fairbourn CS, folks. Today I'm going to take a look at just what we would normally do, what Barb tends to look at within this account as she trades a smaller account. And that is, first of all, I did get her login this time. So we're going to take a look at and see how her trades have been doing. It looks like there have been a couple that have already filled, and we'll take a look at those. But with that, pretty much some verticals today. We'll take a look at that, as well as a long stock potential trade as well, a lower price stock, that is. So definitely looking forward to diving into that with all of you, and welcome to all of you. Hey, let's do this. Let's start off right into some disclosures so we can get the show on the road, but welcome to all of you. Okay. Options carry a high level of risk. They're not suitable for all investors. Information here is for general information purposes only and should not be considered an individualized recommendation. Paper money software application is also for educational purposes only as well. There's some important notes in there too. I wanted to state as well that, investing does involve risk, including the loss of principal. Now, rolling strategies can entail additional transaction costs, including multiple contract fees, which may impact any return. Past performance is no guarantee of future results. Okay, so let's do this. I'm going to go ahead and jump into Barb's login here. Actually, before we do that, I'm going to go over here and we're going to take a look just generally at the markets, just real quick, just to get a footing, see how things are starting off this Monday morning. S&P 500 index, there you go. Folks, I have written in here, and you can see over up top, I do have, this ascending triangle that has been climbing to the upside here, which is interesting because we're right at the edge of it, that upper part of the trend line. And we've got that right here. We've touched off it a couple of different times. The one thing you can say is, yes, we are still ascending higher, but the one thing's true for sure here is we are getting higher highs. And with that, higher lows right down here. Now, that is part of an ascending triangle. And so really within that ascending triangle, it's getting tighter and tighter, but still the trend itself is still to the upside. And that could favor for us, certainly some of these more bullish type trades still in line with the market. We've seen a number of different sectors that are also positioned showing strength as well. Okay, with that too, just a quick note. I mean, we are potentially breaking out of a longer term range. You could say that. It was actually before, Halloween, that we had made this high, and we're still very, very close to that high point. We're just slightly above it. We were above it on Friday. We're above it again today, Monday, but that's what, by the way, that's a long kind of a pause, right? Here we are into getting close to mid-January. We're still in that range, and sometimes after a long rally like this and you go into a sideways channel, sometimes you might be on the verge of what could be construed as a bigger term breakout. We don't know if that will happen. We don't know if that's what we're looking at right now, but that could be the case. Okay. And so it just sometimes you get these long-term pauses. It sometimes gives the market a chance to build up. It may have built up in the form of an ascending triangle. So all else equal, folks, that's a positive. I'm going to go back and forth between my charts and basically what Barb's got. So first off, let's review Barb's trades over here as well. Sorry about this. I've got all this on the left-hand side, but I did open up and I found in here what Barb has. It looks like there were a couple of different fills, a couple of different targets that seem to be hit here. And you can see the PL on the day looking pretty good here on a couple of these gold stocks, AU and NEM. Let's pull these up right now. Oh, you know what? I'm going to pull these up actually on my, we'll go back and forth a little bit here, but that's okay. I just have these charts set up a little bit easier to read on mine right now, but there you go. That is a target that Barb had put in place for Anglo Gold, and it's basically a gap. My expectation is that we probably saw gold stocks in general gap higher. NEM also being a gold stock. The interesting thing about NEM, Newmont, is they're all based out of almost all based out of the U.S. I know Anglico Eagle, AEM, is based out of the U.S. All their mines are in the U.S., but there you go. Look at the gap. You can see the gap. So probably, we're probably seeing some strength in gold itself, the underlying gold contract, and that was an interesting move. And basically, we could see over here in both of these a couple of different things. And by the way, I've got some, well, what appear to be some of the poles of the flags over here on the left-hand side. But you've got a long-term trend that has been in place. There's no doubt about it. And within that, we saw a fairly big pullback and then a reestablishment of that same long-term trend. And then from there, on both of these, Anglo Gold and Newmont, these little sort of mini flags. I would consider that maybe a little bit longer term flag or a small flag right here. But what was interesting, and I'm not sure, we could take a look and see when Barb put this in, but we came right up to this level here. This is a positive, clearly, because look at this, you're just inching higher. That's a higher low as you're taking out highs. Boom, there's your gap. Now, it didn't have to gap, but it's been gappy to the upside and it has been trending up. And so a lot of traders would have looked at the probability being there on that end. I'm going to go ahead and just take a look and see how we did on that trade in general. That's the PL day. So that's just the PL day. I don't know when Barb got in on this trade. So let's go ahead and just take a look. Good way to go to get to that. Account statement right there, folks. Account statement you can see over here. In fact, I think she just did, she's got some PL going on over here. She did a good trade. Let's see. So there you go. I'm just under the profits and losses to see on this paper money trade. So you can see what this example trade looked like. But there's AU. Pretty nice right there. NEM, another pretty nice. Let me line this up, make sure I got this lined up right. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, right there, 288. So that is a nice little score on a couple of different gold miners is what we've got there. And that, by the way, it's a great place to see overall totals. It looks like there may have been a reset that she did at the first part of the year, which is fantastic. You can see everything we've got. Now, the PL year-to-date down below here. And let's see what we have. Some other winners on the year, Intel, Micron as well. But let's get back to the trades, though, too. But there we go. I just want to see how we did in total. All right, STX. So that is going to be Seagate. Dang it. Go back to my other one. So let's just go here. There we go. I just have the charts set up under my login. Okay, so there we go on STX. Okay, so STX, we have to say, if we look at that, it is doing pretty well in terms of what Barb had. We'll go back and forth again on this just to see it. So we're up about 55 right now. Since the position is still open, you guys, and I use this pretty frequently. If you just go to the PL open column, you can see right down below, if you just put your cursor, point to just the first line, it'll say view trades. And what's nice about that is it will tell us when we got in, we know what the trade is. Barb's already put it in the long call verticals. Great. So what is the upside she's looking for? About 300. Okay. It is, so it's a Feb. It looks like a Feb. Yeah, it's a February monthly contract that we've got there. These are the dates we put it on. So this was last week. Last week we put this on, and it may have been in our Friday class, but I think she goes back and forth between the two. But basically buying the lower, selling the higher to kind of offset the cost of that right there. She's up currently on this one, this paper money trade, $60 is it showing right there. Let's pull it up now and take a look at it, because I want to just keep that 300 in mind. So we are above the 300 right now. So she may be waiting to get a portion of this back. I don't know. You guys, let me know in the chat if there's a certain amount she looks at to try to get on this trade. It looks like we got, yeah, if you average price, just a good way to do this. I mean, I could just look at it right now and say it's at roughly $3 and something. We're only about 60 cents, but there's your, or $3 here, or maybe 300 and change over here. In fact, we can look at that right now. 565 minus 510. Let's just do this real quick. Just an easy way to do it. We know what that's going to be, but That's the total of 55. So we're actually I'm sorry, that's what she's made on it right now. I read that too quick. Here are your average prices, okay, the prices that she's got. So it's still about 3. We're slightly into this, and she just put it in. I think she's probably looking for a bigger run than this. So I'm just going to let it sit. 50%. Okay. 70 to 50. Okay, there we go. Appreciate you guys mentioning that. Very helpful. Thanks for letting us know. But yeah, I mean, do you see any issues with this trend right now? I mean, we're just coming off a higher high. And I think maybe Barb was maybe looking at that in her assessment. Here we are last week, towards the end of the week, that is a higher low. It's even resting above the prior last low. So yeah, by definition, a higher load there in the direction of the trend. All else equal, folks, that is a positive as we're looking at this. And by the way, that's not different from what we've been seeing here. Higher highs, higher lows, and even a minor higher low right there. So I think it's fairly steady as she goes. There is going to be an earnings announcement coming up before this option contract expires. But as you know, with these trades, it is a defined risk trade. I'll pull it up right. Oh, sorry, I'm looking at mine, but I could pull it up under hers right here just to pull it up and to show you guys this defined risk, right? It's going to be, it's always the max loss is defined as the debit amount, what we paid for it. Okay. And there you go. So that one still looks pretty steady. Now, this one is down, but just slightly down. This is, so she's got an airline stock, and it's going to be a short put vertical. So if we look at the legs over here, I'm just going to click it up again to see those legs. This was on, looks like last Monday is where she put this one in. So you can see over here, this is a 3 contract trade, whereas over here we were looking at a 1 contract, is what we thought we saw. There is the three contracts. So last Monday, she's got this out here. You can see where we're at in terms of our average pricing, right? And really looking for it to stay above the short strike, which is a 40. Again, a defined risk trade. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. Here it is. LUV. I want to look at DAL as well, but here is LUV. Okay, so staying above 40. Now, some of the things that you'll notice that the way she put this trade on, and I'm just curious here too. I mean, we pulled back a little bit, so it's gone against us just ever so slightly. But I mean, a lot of traders, I would think, might look at this and say, that's a pretty strong trend coming from this bounce here. I mean, that's 30, that's 42. It's a 12-point move on a stock that probably doesn't move that much so often. Right, this is the weekly chart. We're just kind of coming out, broke it above some major highs over here, right? Looked like a little bit of a flag, a breakout, kind of a retest along the prior support level. Yeah, that looks, I mean, it's definitely in line with the trend and almost, very much sort of bull flaggish looking. You'd have to say that by definition, this is very much in the realm of a bull flag right there. There's the flag, there's the follow through, you got the breakout high, and like so many of these trades, the bull flags, they'll come back down and just rest right on the prior high range, which we might be seeing now, possibly even signified. We don't know how the day is going to end, to be honest with you, but there is a candlestick right there, maybe even showing a little bit of a bounce off of that support. Got to see how it ends on the day. We've got a few hours left before the day's up, but possibly a hammer pattern at support, another indication of a possible bounce there. So I think, too, this is pretty steady as it goes. And one of the things, too, I just want to look at, I think Barb does look at the deltas. A lot of times traders will use a delta range as an expectation, like a 20% to a 40% expectation of a stock maybe not going to that level. I want to see where 40 stands just using deltas alone. Let's go ahead and pull this up under the trade tab here. Now, you recall the delta itself measures, and basically it takes form, basically a $1 move in the underlying stock will impact the amount of the delta over here, up or down, based upon, we're looking at positive deltas, negative deltas. This is a short put that she's got. I'll clear that out. Sorry, she was looking at the short put side, and we were looking at the 40. Well, where's that delta now? Look at that, right at 24. So what a lot of traders will look at and say, those that do use the delta as a guide, as a gauge, they'll say, my expectation is there's like a 24% expectation that the price of the stock will go below that 40, and that is the strike. Now, I'm using the wrong, hang on a second, what am I on? I thought it was a 40 and a 38. Am I using the right one? Hang on a second, just one moment, folks. I've got to do this because I wanted to make sure I pulled up her account here for us. There we go. Oh, it's the 30 Jan. Sorry. Let me flip that delta real quick. The 30 Jan. That's right. That was from the other one. So I'll just use this here. In fact, we should be able to see it. Why isn't that? It's not linking either. I've got to get all these things linked. That's okay. It was LUV. I'll just use hers here. And we'll see it. It'll show up. There it goes. Okay. What is this? Okay. It's showing me. There we go. Popped off. Thanks. All right. Let's go over here. And I'm going to go back into this. We'll pull this out a little bit so we can see what's going on. Oh, just barely found it. Let's go down to a 20 stroke. There. The 38. I got to go 25. There we go. Okay, so this is what she's got right here. And she's got the exit set in place already. Fantastic. Okay, cool. Where is that delta lining up at? I'm just going to go ahead and just use the default deltas. And let's just see what this stands at right now. So it's even better than the other one. It's actually at a 20. So a trader might have a 20% expectation of the stock even going below there. Now, what is interesting about this, and even further reason that a trader might say, yeah, I'm okay just keeping this trade on, is over here. What else do we have between where the stock's at right now and 40? Well, we got a couple of potential support levels. I would call that a real short-term support at about a 42.50. And I would say that this is maybe even a bigger picture support right there, closer to maybe like 41. Where are we at for our short leg? 40. Support. Potential support. Prices coming down, delta 0.2. With the trend coming up, maybe even a little bit of a bounce as we're seeing right now. What do you guys think? I'm electing to just go ahead and just keep this one on. It seems to be interestingly positioned, particularly with maybe holding still above a couple of key support levels. Just for the heck of it, too, let's just see how Delta's doing in the same industry here. Actually, interesting, not as good in terms of like the higher breakout. It still had a rally here, but Southwest actually breaking up higher and holding the prior highs. Now, you can see where Delta's at. It's closer to these last lows, not the highs. There are earnings coming out, and this is going to be an interesting guide, too, to keep a watch on. The earnings right there. Keep a watch on this. Because what Delta does, it could have an impact on LUV, but hey, like right now, the trend is up. The price of fuel is down. That's a big input cost to a lot of these airline companies. That might be overkill, but I'm always happy to look at further details and see what we've got out there that could influence the way we see this stock one way or the other. But yeah, earnings. And by the way, this is something that kicks off earnings actually quite quickly here. I should say this. I'm sorry. It's one of the early ones that tend to really get earnings started. A lot of people will look at Delta and some of the airlines, as well as some of the bank stocks too. So we're getting back in, into earnings season a little bit here. You think about those companies that finished their earnings in December. Okay, there we go. Now, let's get going on this. All right, now I did spend most of my time today just looking at charts so we can kind of take a look and see what we've got going forward. I'm going to pass these stocks along to Barb. I don't know if she wants to keep them in her portfolio, but I'll pass them along to her and she can add them if she in fact wants to. So let's do this right now. Here's WBD. Sorry for having to go back and forth between the two platforms, but The charting's a little bit different, and yeah. Anyhow, we're done with the other account. So this is one I wanted to look at first initially. Now this is WBD, Warner Brothers. It's been having some interesting news events coming out with WBD, and you can see over here too. The earnings have been the market's been responding to the earnings as prices have been coming higher here, and we're back again into this kind of sideways channel. Now I will say this too: you've been getting a lot of volume on the stock, quite a bit. This volume has been accumulated in the form of the money flow or on balance volume, very, very similar, which just looks at accumulation or distribution of that volume. And one thing I'll say is that money flow, in other words, it might be supportive. We might be getting enough buyers coming in to support this trend as well. What you wouldn't want to see is like the money flow doing one of these and kind of going sideways or going down. In fact, it looks very, very much like the stock. In fact, it looked close enough like it was even going to take out prior highs over here. It looks similar to it. Like, and we're not at prior highs yet, which would be a positive sign. Pull this guy back down. In fact, I'll just pull them all back down. There we go. All right. So as we look at this, I want to highlight a few different things that we saw. Now, this does too look kind of similar to what we've been seeing with this stock. It's kind of like the structure of the stock, so to speak, the structure of the trend, kind of a bigger move up, consolidation, like a bull flag, sort of, right? I mean, it's a longer term bull flag, but then we get it again over here. We rallied again. And this was kind of a bigger run, and we're rallying again over here. What is interesting about this is it's holding a lot of its gains. These are very, very tight ranges. I mean, if you see this move up, we're holding a lot of that range. Look at this. We're not dipping very much. And so these are very, very, they're almost referred to as a bull flat pattern as opposed to a bull flag. They're really holding a lot of their gains. And a lot of times that just means that sellers aren't willing to get out at these levels. In other words, they want to still stick around. You're just not seeing nearly the amount of selling pressure to the downside as we saw conversely buying pressure to the upside. And that's oftentimes conducive in the minds of a lot of traders of continuation of the trend. Now, if we zoom in on this, we'll see that Friday, we did actually close above the high of the low day down here. Now, we did dip a little bit today as prices came back down as well. But what I'll do, and I'll let Barb consider if she wants to put this in her account or not, because it might just be different than what she's been doing. But you'll notice it is a little bit of a cheaper stock. It's in the 28 range. I mean, well, it's always relative to 228 or the 300s, 400s, whatever. But here's kind of a longer term perspective of where that stock has been previously. I mean, obviously it was higher over here. We dipped back down. There may in fact be, I don't know, but there could be a longer term sort of cup and handle right there. And we're kind of in the midst of a little bit of a flag. Now, one thing we could look at here is the price of the stock potentially breaking above either this level, the prior highs, that's 30, right around 30, or simply just breaking above this high, Friday's high. Right now, that little bit of a gap down, I was looking at this as a potential trade, but then we gapped down. But still, you know, if you can consolidate, it's not too unusual with a longer term consolidation. You'll see that, but then when it starts to get going, it might break above a high here or clear this level, because what could be in store? Let me reset that chart. What could be in store is something like this. What we've seen have been some really, really interesting sort of, when we get off of these bottoms here, the moves that follow through afterwards have been pretty good. Will we get another one of these again? That's the question. And that's what traders could be looking at. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and let's go ahead and take a look at, let's do this. I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, I'll zoom into it here and let's look at it here. So it's such a low price stock that when you look at the options over here, they're not as, I mean, there's just not a lot to them. There is the 27, right? And there is the 27 was at a let's see, that was at a delta of about 26. The 28, which is getting really quite close to right at the money, yeah, because we're at 28.35 right now, and 28 sits just right here. The 27, however, gives us a little bit of a range, and you'll notice it's just below the prior low right there. That's the prior low. So I think 27 would rest just below, just slightly below that level. Looking at a way to maybe participate in this, I'm going to kind of, we'll look at the dialogue, the order dialog box here in just a second. But if I go ahead and just click on, let's say if we were just going to do 100 shares here, we have a really good idea that that's going to be, actually in a margin account, it's about, well, the way we've got it set up right now, yeah, the buying power effect is just about 14, a little over 1,400. But on these low price stocks, instead of trying to sell, even if we did the 27 right here, by the way, the spread's not too good either. Gosh, that's strange, huh? Or even this Febs, it's got 10 million shares traded. You'd think they'd be able to bridge that gap a little bit better. That's closer, but I don't know what's going on there. A lot of times they might still give you a fill in between that range. Hold up just a second. Yeah, that was our 20s right there. Wide ranging. What are we seeing over here on the open interest on this guy? Tons of it. Yeah, I saw that earlier. But, 4 figures we're looking at. And that's as good as they can do. With the 10 million shares traded today. Fascinating. Wow. Well, we could probably get the mid, but is that even still going to be enough? What do you guys think about that? The paper money will probably give me the mid, probably not too much better than the mid price. So what are we looking at? Maybe about 30, yeah, 39-ish or so, right in that range. The one thing I was going to say on this, if we did a spread trade, you'll see how little we get out. We get 18 cents. It's a lower price stock, so we're really not getting that much in there. I wanted to show you guys this. If we were to look at this, the buying power effect is quite a bit less just selling the put by itself. It's close to $1,000 less, as we just saw, right, in terms of the buying power effect on the stock itself. It might be a way to capture some premium, but gosh, you don't run into this too often where you get so much there. I don't know. Let's see, too expensive for that, huh? For that amount, you guys would say. So I'm going to put it in on, let's just see what we get over here. $42, you get $42. It's about $429. It's over, in terms of the buying power effect, you're looking at it over about 39 days. Yeah, and they're not going to take that. So it's still too high. Wow. Wow, that's crazy. Okay. When I looked at it this morning, it wasn't quite that wide. I don't know what's going on right now, but anyways, that would be one thing to look at. And by the way, it's always important to take a look at that spread because remember, if it doesn't go in our favor, or we're trying to close it out for like an 80% or whatever, I just put one in for 40 cents in my own paper money account. Again, I'll pass this on to Barb and see what she wants to do with it, if anything. Let's move along. What do you say? Okay, next stock, we're going to go into AMD. All right, so here is AMD. Now, AMD it's not so much like a breakout to the upside. It's trending up, but the one thing you could say with AMD is it's got the longer term trend to the upside. And I'll say this too. We had this really interesting gap that came in right there. It was a big gap. We came back down and we tested that gap 1, 2, 3 times. I do find it kind of interesting that that gap is right at a big round number. That's 200. So it's right there at 200. $200. It's a big round number. Sometimes it's difficult once you get, once you hit those levels, it's tough to get through. But once you get back up above them, it might be easier to just hold that range as well, to just hold it. So it might be support is what I'm getting at. So we'll see. But right now, as of today, right now, of course, it's not a hold at the end of the day. It's not closing above the high of the low day, which is what that stands for, because it's not, we haven't closed yet today. Is it trading above the high of the low day right now? Yeah, it is. It's currently above that. And we've seen sort of a hold right there get started. Off of this low, we saw a hold right there take form. And we might be getting another one today. Now, with these semiconductor type stocks that have really been moving, and Intel's been moving up quite a bit as well. But this bounce coming off here, we could look for, it's $200 stock. We could look for a spread trade on this, a vertical, short put vertical on this as well to lessen that price at being in the 200 range. So let's do that. Let's go into that level, right into those numbers right now under AMD. In fact, take a look and see where we're at on this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and flip this over into a delta. Look at a delta reference here for us. Okay, so we're getting into that 20 to 40 range right here. So basically 185 to 195, actually even 200s below that level, because we are at 209. We're just almost on the verge of a 210 over here, close to it, I would say. But let's look and see what we've got. So the 200, or don't we want to give ourselves a little bit of range just below that level, at least 195? We come over here, the 190 is a 25 delta. So if we did the one, and this is a much better spread, by the way, right? 190 and 185. Okay, let's take a look at this right now. So if we're selling that 190, you can see very clearly by itself, buying power effect, a little over, getting close to 2,300. But if we were to buy the 185, still just using that monthly time frame, it's $1.35 credit. Confirm. Wow, what a difference. From 2,300 down to little, 300 and change. So 365 there. Now let's just kind of take a look at the reward on risk there, the risk on reward, whatever way we want to say it, over that time frame and see what we've got in terms of a pretty consistent bounce off of 200. We'll see if we get it again here, but let's go ahead and compare that 135 divided by 365 right now. So it's about, that return on risk is about, it's approximately 37% return on, the risk right there. The max loss is a defined risk trade again. And that, folks, is going to be over your 39 days. It's always fascinating, isn't it, to see sometimes these percentages can be fantastic as you look at this. Look at these kind of trade setups over that time frame. You're like, gosh, 39 days, 37%. It's not quite a percent a day, but it's getting close to it. I'm going to go ahead and do, just like Barb did on the LUV trade, I'm going to go back to edit. I'm going to go ahead and just do 3 of these, and let's just see what this looks like. So there you go. So 1,000 buying power effect in this case, still potentially within, the realms of trading within a smaller account. We're looking at that level. But then again, depending upon what kind of a paper trade you wanted to do, you could do a 1, a 2, or a 3, basically $300 and change increment all the way up. But there's your credit right there. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and just send it through. So we get that in place. Very, very great. Great spreads here, as you can see. And again, there is that 25, starting with a 25 delta. So again, maybe the expectation of a trader is they have an expectation that'll be a 25% expectation that will go below that level by when? 39 days, expiration of that monthly contract. So we threw that guy in right there. All right. Sure, let's take a look. Let's see. So TER. Yeah, Teradyne. Okay. And by the way, as we were just talking about 200, below 200, potentially resistance, just like 100. It doesn't have to be that way. Let me just show you 100 over here. Just on the fly, let's draw it out and see what it looks like. Gap below 100, gapped above 100. Folks, that is an island bottom, or referred to as an island reversal, because it is on an island. That's fascinating. These can be interesting points to get going, to get started here for a rally. They don't have to be, but I've seen just over the years, 25 plus years actually in the markets, I've seen a fair number of longer term reversals, longer term, that might run for a while, up to a year or so or more, that begin with island bottoms or island reversals. So they can be interesting. It just basically represents a change, sometimes in the company itself, a fundamental change, and it right around earnings. There you go. A little side note, wanted to point it out when I see them because they are interesting. All right, over here, look at this run up. I was going to look at a different one, but hey, this one, the trend is there. I mean, higher highs, higher lows. Just got another higher high above that 200. I'm very curious what that 200 looks like in terms of the delta, because also you've got the prior low right there. There could be support there. The prior high range, 200, folks, or just sub 200, just below that level. And what would that be doing? Remember that trade that we were looking at with Barb as we were looking at a few of those, Love, for example, Southwest. We took that trade below a support level as well. Now, we might be below a couple here already, anything sub 200, just to give ourselves that one additional barrier there that prices might bounce off of. Stay away from that level if we're selling that short put spread. Let's take a look right now. There's the trade tab. I'm going to go over here and I'll pull this up right now, and let's see, under the 200 right there. Okay, spread's a little bit wider, but remember, with the spread, what is nice about it too is that it will immediately, or try to shoot for the mid. It'll shoot for the mid. So that is the 20 at 195 would be below that 200. So we've got a little bit of a buffer zone between the 200 where prices were at and the 195, right? We've got a range in there. With that, if we're choosing it, there's your 22. So maybe a 22% expectation, just using delta plus those support levels. Let's see what this mid gives us here. There's 200. Click on the bid, click on the ask over here for Teradyne. 140. Let's just see what this looks like over here. Okay, if we can get the mid, one second. What is our what is our volume looking like over here? We don't have a ton. Open interest is not that big. It's getting close to the 100s, and a lot of traders look for 100. So that's going to be something very, very important to note. What does that open interest look like? Okay, are we in at least the 100s? By the way, the 110 is getting there, but we still have time to get there. We might, but there you go. The 190 is at 93. So just park that in the back of your mind as well. Let's go ahead and just set this up, and we'll just see what this looks like. Just for a single on this one. Boy, we just lost a little bit. We were at 140, I want to say. I don't know if we'll get any more on this one. We'll try 130. If we were going to do 130, return on risk. Well, 130 divided by the max loss in this case is 370, about 35. Very close though, if we were to get that. But probably even if we dipped it down, we could see where it's at. But yeah, that might have to sit. In fact, it might not feel. Let me just get this going so it gets it under our belt, for example. Well, I'll just leave it there. You guys decide on that. But very close, actually, the other one. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I am going to place that trade in Barb's account, so at least she at least has something to go on from last week instead of nothing. In terms of the AMD trade, let's go back to that trade. I'm just going to place that so we have it on this account to kind of watch. And let's see, we did the, hang on a second. We did the 190, 185. That's right. Okay, 190, 185. Just want to double check. Click and click. 35. We'll do 3 of these. 2, 3. Confirm and just confirm everything in the dialog box. Make sure we've got it. And folks, I think we do. We got it. All right, so let's go ahead and send that guy through. Yeah, in fact, I think it's almost the same exact amount. We'll see if it feels in the paper money. I'm using the paper money demo versus this is the paper money paper in the other one. Barb uses that, but I've got that set out there for a potential fill because I think we got on this one the 35, 135. Let me double check on that. Yeah, it was the same. It was the same. We'll see though. Oh, I'm on Teradyne, you guys. Hang on. AMD. I don't care if I mess it up in that was Teradyne. Forget it. No, it's here. We got the bill here. AMD. No, it is. Okay. I'm sorry. I flipped back to mine to look at the chart. We do have it on AMD, and we're still waiting for that 135 to get filled. All right. Now, we're good there. I'm going to get Barb's chart set up next time if I do this. But all right, everybody. Well, that's what we had today. Kind of managed everything that we saw on Barb's end. We potentially have that new additional trade down here. I'll go ahead and move this up to the other position. I'll do that actually after it fills. We'll get it up here into the short put vertical section to take a look at as well. But we ran through that with you today. We reviewed her prior trades. We look at WBD as the possibility of a trade. Look at AMD and TER, but we did place potentially a couple of vertical spreads as we put in here. I put one in as just a short put itself, but hopefully you found that informative, useful as we went through some of the other concepts of the delta, different support levels, things along those lines. If you like today's presentation, smash that like button. And yeah, so Chris just mentioned, within 10% bid and ask spreads, I'm buying that with you, buying that concept. And also I like the idea too on the spread trade itself. Can you get the mid in there and can you close it? You want to make sure the volume's there, not just on the stock, but also on the option itself. And there's the fill right before we're done. Okay, so we got that same trade in. You guys can monitor that throughout the week as well. But we went through some of the return on risks as well. All right, folks. Well, hey, expect Barb to be in next week. It was great being with you all. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the day. Thanks so much. Thank you, Ken.